What if I told you that everything you've been taught about manifestation has been completely backwards? What if the very reason your desires remain out of reach is because you're chasing them? In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to share with you the quantum secret that most manifestation teachers won't tell you, not because it's complicated, but because it's so ridiculously simple that it doesn't sell courses, it doesn't require years of practice, and it completely dismantles the billion-dollar manifestation industry. But here's the thing. If you can handle the truth, if you're ready to stop chasing and start becoming, then this video will be the last manifestation video you'll ever need to watch. We live in a culture obsessed with action, with doing, with making things happen. But what if this mentality doesn't just fail when it comes to manifestation? What if it actually repels what you want? I'm talking about quantum manifestation. And before you roll your eyes thinking this is just another spiritual concept, let me be clear. This is backed by real quantum physics, neuroscience, and principles that have been proven in laboratories around the world. The problem is, quantum reality isn't linear. It doesn't respond to urgency, desperation, or force. It responds to something much more subtle, much more powerful: coherence. And coherence begins when your internal state perfectly reflects the reality you say you want. But here's where most people get stuck. Most people try to attract abundance while vibrating with the energy of lack. They visualize love while radiating loneliness. They affirm freedom while embodying fear. And that contradiction? That's what the quantum field responds to. Not your words, not your vision board, not your morning ritual. Your energetic contradiction. Let me explain this through the lens of quantum physics. In quantum mechanics, there's something called the observer effect. It shows that the act of observation literally alters the outcome of reality. But here's the twist that changes everything. It only works when your observation is infused with expectancy, not desperation. When you observe your desired reality through the lens of trust and knowing, the quantum wave collapses into physical form. But when you observe through the lens of fear, urgency, or when is this going to happen, the wave remains uncollapsed. Just possibility, never reality. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're trying to listen to 98.7 FM while your dial is set to 88.1, it doesn't matter how much you want that music, you'll never hear it unless you tune yourself first. That's what quantum manifestation really is. It's not asking the universe to deliver something to you. It's attuning yourself to the frequency where that version of your life already exists. I remember when I first understood this. I was desperately trying to manifest a specific amount of money. I was visualizing daily, affirming constantly, doing all the so-called right things. But every day I'd check my bank account with anxiety, calculate how many days I had left before I'd be in trouble, and worry about worst-case scenarios. I was literally broadcasting scarcity while asking for abundance. And the universe, being the perfect mirror that it is, kept reflecting my scarcity back to me. This is where ancient wisdom and modern science converge in the most beautiful way. Neville Goddard, decades ago, spoke about living from the end, embodying the emotional signature of your desired outcome as if it were already real. Joe Dispenza talks about how the brain and heart must be coherent, signaling to the quantum field a unified message of creation. Abraham Hicks calls it getting into the vortex, that emotional sweet spot where resistance melts and receiving becomes natural. But here's what modern neuroscience adds to this ancient wisdom. When you imagine a future event and genuinely feel the emotions associated with it, gratitude, joy, peace, your brain literally begins to create neural circuits as if that event were already happening. This is called neuroplasticity. Do this consistently, and your body becomes familiar with the future before it arrives. And when your body believes, the quantum field responds. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research shows that when you enter high-frequency emotional states like gratitude and love, your brain and heart enter what's called gamma coherence. In this state, your nervous system becomes incredibly receptive to new patterns, and your personal electromagnetic field becomes magnetic to matching experiences. But here's the real problem that keeps people stuck. Simplicity scares the ego. We've been trained to believe that value comes through effort, that transformation requires pain, that progress demands hustle. But in the quantum world, it's the complete opposite. The more you chase, the more you affirm the absence. The more you try to force, the more you amplify resistance. This is why quantum manifestation is simple, and that's exactly why nobody gets it. Because simplicity isn't sexy. It's not marketable. It's not dramatic, but it is where the real shift begins. Let me break down what's really happening energetically when you chase versus when you align. When you chase, you're operating from lack consciousness. Your electromagnetic signature broadcasts, "I don't have this." You're looking outside yourself for validation. Time feels slow and frustrating. You're constantly seeking signs and proof. Your nervous system is in fight or flight mode. When you align, you're operating from having consciousness. Your electromagnetic signature broadcasts, "This is already mine." You're sourcing validation from within. Time becomes fluid and synchronistic. You become the sign you were looking for. Your nervous system is in rest and digest, in coherence. The difference is profound, and the quantum field responds accordingly. Now, let's talk about what it really means to live from the end. This isn't just a nice spiritual concept, it's a precise instruction for quantum collapse. Your external reality is a reflection of your internal state. But most people approach manifestation with a to-do list. Visualize daily, repeat affirmations, write it down 10 times. And while these practices can be helpful, they often become mechanical, surface-level attempts to change a mirror without changing the face it reflects. The truth is, the quantum field doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to who you are being. And being is not performance. It's not pretending to feel abundant while panicking about rent. It's not saying you trust the universe while secretly obsessing over timelines. Being is alignment, a vibrational congruence between your inner world and the version of reality you want to experience. Joe Dispenza explains it like this: your thoughts are electric, and your emotions are magnetic. Together they create an electromagnetic signature that broadcasts your state of being into the quantum field. That field, which holds every potential reality, begins to reorganize itself based on the signal you're sending. Not what you want, but what you are. Let's break that down. Suppose you desire a life of financial freedom. If you're constantly feeling anxious, checking your bank account, and imagining worst-case scenarios, your electromagnetic signature is one of scarcity. And scarcity doesn't attract wealth, it magnetizes more scarcity. The field is not judging you, it's just reflecting your broadcast. Now here's the twist. The most powerful way to change your signal is not to chase a new future, but to embody it. To feel it now, to practice the frequency of your desired reality until it feels natural, not as a lie, but as a remembrance. Because somewhere in the infinite multiverse, that version of you already exists. And when you align with that version, emotionally and mentally, you begin to collapse that possibility into reality. This is not wishful thinking. Neuroplasticity shows us that the brain literally rewires itself through mental rehearsal. When you imagine a future event and bring up the emotion of it, gratitude, joy, peace, your brain begins to create the neural circuits as if it were already happening. Do that long enough, and your body becomes familiar with the future before it arrives. And when the body believes, the field responds. Neville Goddard taught this decades ago when he said, "Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled." He wasn't suggesting you fake it, he meant fuse with it. Let the feeling of your desired reality become more real than your current circumstances. Let it be so familiar that your nervous system calibrates to it. Because here's what most don't understand. Manifestation is not about asking the universe for a favor. It's about meeting the version of yourself who already lives that reality and bringing that version into the now, not by effort, but by resonance. And when that resonance becomes consistent, the field mirrors it back as experience. There's a shift that happens when you stop waiting for signs and start becoming the sign. When you stop watching for synchronicities and start living in sync. That's when reality bends. That's when time seems to collapse. That's when things magically align, not because of luck, but because of coherence. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation collapses the wave function, turning a potential into reality. But not all observation is equal. Observation charged with trust and emotional clarity has more collapsing power than observation tainted by fear and doubt. So ask yourself, what version of reality are you consistently observing within? When people say act as if, it's not about faking confidence or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about stepping into the emotional posture of someone who already knows, someone who's not waiting for proof but embodying the evidence before it arrives. This is the beginning of mastering your frequency. And when you do, you don't attract reality, you become the gravity that pulls it in. Now that we understand the quantum field doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are, the next step is to ask, how do you collapse the possibility into form? Quantum physics reveals that all potential realities exist in a state of superposition. Your dream job, your ideal relationship, your financial breakthrough, they are not distant hopes but present potentials waiting to be chosen. But they don't become real simply because you think about them. They become real when your observation, your focused awareness, causes the wave to collapse. But not just any observation. This isn't a passive glance. The quantum field responds to emotionally charged focus, to observation laced with belief, trust, embodiment, and energetic alignment. When you feel your future as if it's already real, you begin to imprint that version into the unified field. You don't chase it, you stabilize it. And in doing so, the universe responds. Joe Dispenza explains that this process requires coherence, a synchronization between the brain and the heart. Most people live in mental chaos and emotional incoherence. Their thoughts want one thing, but their emotions communicate lack. Their actions are scattered, motivated by fear or doubt. And in that state, the field can't find a clear frequency to reflect. When your brain and heart enter coherence, your signal becomes stronger. You're no longer sending mixed messages. You're broadcasting a unified frequency of trust, gratitude, and certainty. The signature of someone who already is what they once hoped to become. Let's look at this from the perspective of neurobiology. When you feel an emotion, your body releases chemicals that correspond to that feeling. Gratitude produces dopamine and oxytocin. Trust produces serotonin. These chemicals don't just make you feel good, they shift your entire physiological state. And your state becomes your point of attraction. If you can generate these emotions without needing external confirmation, you reclaim your creative power. You're no longer reacting to life, you're informing it. And this is how reality begins to shift. Neville Goddard used to say that your assumptions harden into facts. What he meant was this: your consistent emotional assumptions create a gravitational pull that restructures your world. The outer becomes a mirror of the inner. And this is not philosophy, it's physics, backed by what we now know about the observer effect, entanglement, and coherence. The observer effect teaches us that what you focus on expands. And more than that, it transforms. You're not just watching a future unfold, you're shaping it moment by moment with every thought, emotion, and choice. So how do you maintain this? How do you live as if your desired reality is already here? This is where most people falter. They touch the frequency briefly in meditation or journaling, but then go back to worrying, doubting, scrolling, and reinforcing their current identity. That's like planting a seed and digging it up every day to check if it's growing. Manifestation requires energetic consistency. That doesn't mean perfection, it means returning again and again to the version of you who already has it. Not just in thought, but in feeling. Not just in words, but in behavior, even in subtle ways. Walk as if, breathe as if, make decisions as if. Because every small alignment compounds. Every moment you choose coherence over fear, presence over distraction, you're reinforcing the quantum imprint of your new reality. Here's where it gets exciting. Once you stabilize that vibration, reality begins to respond with what many call synchronicity. Unexpected opportunities, intuitive nudges, sudden clarity, people showing up at the perfect time. And it's not magic, it's the field reorganizing itself around your signal. You'll know you're close to collapse when you begin to feel it in your bones. Not as excitement or impatience, but as certainty. A quiet knowing, a deep sense of inevitability. That's when you stop asking where is it and start feeling it's already mine. At this point, you've moved from wishful thinking to energetic authorship. You've crossed the bridge between possibility and embodiment. And from here, something begins to shift, not only in your outer world, but in your perception of it. You stop needing validation because your frequency is its own evidence. You've collapsed the wave, and the life you once visualized is now visualizing you back. Once you begin to live from the end, not toward it, everything starts to change. But, let's be honest, this is where most people get stuck. Not because they don't believe, but because they don't know how to become what they desire. They try to think their way into a new life without feeling it. They hope for change while embodying the same patterns. And the field doesn't respond to hope, it responds to energetic certainty. Quantum manifestation is not about thinking positively until something magically appears. It's about becoming a match to the timeline you're trying to access. That timeline, that version of you, already exists. You're not building it from scratch, you're selecting it by aligning your energy to the frequency it broadcasts. How do you know you're aligning? You stop obsessing over the how. You stop chasing validation, signs, or guarantees. You become less reactive to the outer world and more attuned to your inner calibration. Abraham Hicks often says, "You can't get there from there," meaning you cannot manifest the version of you who is free, at peace, and fulfilled from a place of urgency, frustration, or lack. You have to start acting, choosing, and especially feeling as if you're already there. That's when something mysterious begins to happen. You start attracting different thoughts, not the ones you try to think, but the ones that belong to that version of you. Your intuition sharpens. You sense new paths opening. The synchronicities become bolder. Reality becomes more fluid. Time bends in strange ways. It's as if life is accelerating to meet you. Joe Dispenza explains that when you enter a high-frequency emotional state, gratitude, love, awe, your brain and heart enter gamma coherence. In this state, your nervous system becomes more receptive to new patterns. Your field becomes magnetic, and manifestation becomes natural, not because you're forcing it, but because you've become the portal through which that reality flows. And this is why we say stop chasing, start attracting. It's not about effort, it's about calibration. If you've ever had a moment where things just clicked, where everything aligned without effort, where an opportunity showed up just when you needed it, or when someone said exactly what you were thinking, you've experienced the quantum field responding to your alignment. Now imagine living in that state by choice. That's what we're doing here. And now let's speak directly to your subconscious, because there's a reason this message is reaching you right now. You've likely felt that your manifestations take too long, that maybe something's blocking them, that perhaps you're doing it wrong. But here's the truth. You've always been closer than you think. The very fact that you're hearing this now is proof that your field is ready to shift. You're not broken. You're not behind. You don't need to chase anything. You need to stabilize the version of you who no longer chases, the one who knows, the one who walks with quiet certainty and grounded magnetism. That version of you already exists. And every moment you choose to remember that, you collapse the distance between now and your desire. So let this be the moment you stop trying and start remembering. Let this be the moment you embody the version of you who lives as if it's already done. Let this be the quantum event where you shift from waiting to becoming. And now here's something powerful to anchor this shift. If this message is resonating, if you feel the stirrings of your next level aligning, comment 777 below. Why 777? Because in numerology and spiritual traditions, 777 is considered the number of divine alignment. It's a vibrational code that symbolizes that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. When you see 777, it's not just a sign, it's a mirror, a reflection that your internal reality is syncing with your higher potential. A confirmation that your manifestation is not only valid, it's already vibrating in your field. So when you type 777, you're not just engaging, you're activating. You're claiming your coherence. You're becoming a node of resonance for what you're ready to receive. And in doing so, you amplify the frequency, not just for you, but for everyone reading this. That's how the field works. It multiplies what we affirm together. So go ahead, type 777 in the comments. Watch who else does. Watch what happens in your field after this. Consider this your signal to the universe. I no longer chase, I attract, because I already am. If there's one thing the quantum field keeps whispering to those who are willing to listen, it's this. There is nothing to wait for. Every version of your life, every timeline, every possibility, every potential reality already exists. It is not something you create through force. It is something you tune into through alignment. And the shift doesn't require years of effort or complex techniques. It begins the moment you stop searching for signs outside and start embodying the signal inside. Think about this. The reality where your manifestations are already real is not somewhere far. It's vibrationally adjacent. You don't need to leap into it, you simply need to stop resonating with the one you want to leave behind. This is what Neville Goddard meant when he said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It's not a game of wishful thinking. It's the science and sacredness of self-selection. You're not asking life to become something. You're telling life, this is who I am now. In the field, being fully obedient to coherence responds accordingly. But there's a catch. You can't fake it. You can't pretend to feel abundance while anchoring yourself in doubt. You can't chant affirmations from a place of fear. You can't meditate your way into a new life while mentally clinging to the old one. The quantum field isn't fooled by surface rituals. It listens only to the vibration beneath your thoughts. And that's exactly where your power lives. So how do you live from this power? You practice coherence. You choose again and again to return to alignment. Not once, not when it's convenient, but as a devotion, a lifestyle, a way of being. You speak differently. You walk differently. You treat others and yourself as if you are already that person. And soon you won't be acting anymore, you'll be living it. This is the quantum code behind manifestation that few talk about, not because it's hidden, but because it's simple. Too simple for a mind addicted to complexity, too soft for a world addicted to struggle. But that simplicity is your secret key. The more you release the need to make it happen, the more reality begins to shape itself around you. Let yourself trust this. Let yourself stop waiting for evidence and become the evidence. And remember, the most powerful manifestations don't announce themselves with fireworks. They arrive in ordinary moments felt deeply in your body. A shift in breath, a sudden peace, a knowing. The universe speaks quietly when it delivers what you've already claimed. So now I ask you, what if the change you've been waiting for is waiting for you to finally stop waiting? What if your next timeline is watching you right now, waiting for the signal that says, I'm ready, let's collapse the distance? If that resonates, leave a comment below sharing your experience, your intention, or simply your affirmation. Let this space be more than a video. Let it be a frequency portal. Let your words here become anchors in the quantum field. And as you scroll through, notice you are not alone. We are a field, a wave, a movement, and your coherence strengthens the whole. If this video activated something in you, consider subscribing, not just for content, but for connection. This channel is a sanctuary for those who know the universe is listening, for those who are ready to become what they've been calling in. You are not becoming powerful, you already are. You are not learning how to manifest, you're remembering how reality responds to you. And the moment you stop chasing and start aligning, that's when manifestation becomes effortless. And that's when it gets magical.